Ladies and gentlemen, there is an award show that goes on every year. You've probably heard of it. It's called the Game Awards, and it's basically a big event where they crown the Game of the Year. Okay, and the Game of the Year is typically a bunch of AAA games that, if you're watching my video on my channel right now, you probably didn't care about any of the games that were nominated except for Balatro, okay? And we all wanted Balatro to win because it was the indie game, the roguelike in the list. It didn't win. That's life. It still walked away with a bunch of other awards, and it's a really good sign of the future of gaming. But on this channel, every year, I give you my top 10 games of the year, okay? And they're typically indie games and roguelike games, and games that we played throughout the year that we really enjoyed. I also typically script this video. Not sure if you can tell, I'm not scripted at all, okay? I have a list of the games next to me. I will edit the video so that there's some nice gameplay in the background, but we're just doing it live because, frankly, I don't got time to script out a video and upload it and have it get 2,000 views. So, without further ado, is my top 10 games of the year. I want to start out with a shout-out section, okay? Because I don't think that it's fair to give these games a slot in my top 10 games of the year. One, because I already have had them on a Game of the Year list in previous years. And second, because they kind of were updates that came out this year that were monumental and changed the game a lot, which makes it feel like a brand new game. But it's like a little cheap, so I don't really wanna put them in here. Okay, so first off, Tiny Rogues, massive shout out. Okay, the Between Heaven and Hell update is incredible for Tiny Rogues. If you haven't hopped into Tiny Rogues in 2024, and you maybe played the game previously in previous years, you should go back and play it again because it has changed immensely and it's just for the better. There's tons of content, there's tons of builds, there's tons of characters. The meta progression system is among one of the best meta progression systems in any game I've ever played, and it's just a gem. It's really, really good. You should play it, you should check it out. If you're a fan of The Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon, it's the next logical step for you to play, so check it out. Second in our shoutout list is Slice and Dice, okay? Slice and Dice released on Steam this year. It was an itch.io game for the most part, and it released on Steam this year with its 3.0 release. It might have been 2.0, I think it's 3.0. Added some new classes, added a bunch of new content, new game modes. Slice and Dice is just phenomenal, man. I mean, it is one of the best strategy roguelikes out there. It holds my spot in my life as my plane game. Whenever I'm traveling and I'm on a plane, I have it on my phone, and I play an ungodly amount of Slice and Dice every time I travel, because I'll play it on the plane and then I'll get re-addicted to it, so then every moment that I get, I'm playing Slice and Dice on my phone during my trip. You gotta check it out. I think it works really well on a phone, if that's a medium that inspires you to play video games. But it's also very good on PC. It's just a great game. Modding community is really cool there too. They have a really intelligent modding system in the game. So check it out. It's really good, and I like it a lot. And then I got one final shout out, okay? And that shout out is, it's a little awkward. It's a little awkward because this is most people's games of the year this year. It's Balatro, okay? It's Balatro. Here's the reason why I don't have it on my game of the year list. I had it on my game of the year list last year, okay? There were 4 demos that released for Balatro last year. They were good enough to make my game of the year list last year. I don't feel comfortable reusing a game, putting it on my Game of the Year list this year. And, like, they'll shoot the messenger, okay? I wasn't the biggest fan of Balatro's full release. I found it to be, like, it was fine, right? But it didn't do anything that made me go, like, wow, this is so much better than the demo. Like, it just was like, I'll just play the demo, right? But I get it. Like, I understand the sway that Balatro has. I understand how important Balatro is for the industry. And that's why I wanted to give it the shout out here. But I'm not putting it on my top 10 list. Now we got some honorable mentions. This is basically me crying when I was putting together my top 10 and realizing that I didn't have space for 12 games in a top 10 list. So I got 2 honorable mentions that I want to at least talk about and bring up. First being Lonestar. Lonestar is a really, really incredible little strategic roguelike where you're building a spaceship that battles against another spaceship, okay? And on the surface, a lot of people go, oh my god, it's like FTL. It's not even remotely close to FTL. It's a terrible comparison besides that they're both spaceships. It's more like if Dicey Dungeons was enhanced. Like it's like a Dicey Dungeons engine building board game where you're building a bunch of synergies together on your ship to maximize your damage, and there's so much content in the game. There's ways to build everything within it, and I think it's a really fascinating game that did not get nearly enough media attention. I did look, it's got over 1,000 very positive reviews on Steam, so at some point this game popped off, but I don't know who's making content on it because I can barely find any. It's really good. You should play it, and I've got a few videos on my channel if you want to check them out. Next honorable mention, we got DICEOMANCER, okay? It's one of those games where it's really hard for me to put it in a top 10 list because I only played a couple hours of it. But I do think that it's one of those games that is deserving of being talked about in terms of roguelike design this year. It's a deck builder that really just let you do anything. You could manipulate cards, you could manipulate numbers on the screen. The enemies were lovable yet hard. It's an extremely difficult game that can also be completely trivial if you break it the correct way. And it really just, I think, was one of those deck building roguelikes that enhanced the roguelike genre, right? It really put a lot of power in the player to do whatever you wanted to do. And I found that to be a really charming and fascinating approach to the gameplay. So I wanted to bring it up here. I don't think that it's good enough to make it into my top 10 and beat out any of the other 10 games on my list, but I do think that it was an extremely fascinating game and one that is very worthy of being played. So now we move into the top 10 games of the year. You're going to disagree with most of them, and my opinions are irrelevant, but look, it's my opinion. It's my opinion for a reason. It's because it's right. Number 10, Feed the Deep, okay? And I want to talk about Feed the Deep more than I probably should, because I think that I'm putting it into my top 10 not because it's better than DICEOMANCER and Lonestar, which I'm not sure it is, okay? Still a great game, but I'm not sure that it's better than DICEOMANCER or Lonestar. But what I love about Feed the Deep is how contained it was. This is a game that was not flashy in any way. Like, it was just a very contained version of a game where you knew what you were getting when you went into it. It still threw some surprises at you here and there, but it wasn't a game that was hunting to be a 100-hour infinitely replayable roguelike. It was a game that had a story to tell, came in, told it, and if you want to replay some of the scenarios, you replay some of the scenarios. Here's a couple challenges here and there, but otherwise, it's kind of just a very contained game. And I love that about Feed the Deep. I think that the gameplay was a lot of fun. I think it was a really good twist on kind of the Dome Keeper style. I thought that the interwoven story throughout it was really fascinating. And it gave some good jump scares and some good storylines that I think were a lot of fun, both for the game and also for the content on my channel. So I give it that 10 spot in our list. Number 9, we got a game that released here recently, Ballionaire, okay? A pachinko roguelike, similar to a game like Peglin, but more focused on a Luck Be a Landlord style big number kind of game, right? You're dropping balls. Those balls are either creating new balls or hitting pegs to make a ton of money. It's the kind of game that it's just pure fun to play. I'm not sure it's the most balanced game of all time. Like, you can basically obliterate every run that you do of it. And I think that it can probably get a little stale if you play it a lot, because while there are many builds to explore in it, it runs into the same issues that a game like Luck Be a Landlord has. And again, Luck Be a Landlord was in my top 3 games of the year in a previous year. I love Luck Be a Landlord, but once you've done every build in the game starts to lose its luster a little bit. So I think with Ballionaire, the multiple boards helps to kind of cure some of that, replayability issues in it. The progression in the game to unlock new things is fine, but once you unlock everything, There's no progression because it's just built upon being that infinitely replayable roguelike. And those kinds of games are great. And for the price on it, it's fantastic. You'll get good fun and good big number, haha, look at the billions flow in feelings while playing it. And that's exactly what the game was for, and that's exactly what the game is good at. And it's absolutely good enough to make it to number 9 on my top 10 games of the year list. I'm interested to see if updates continue to flow for it, with new triggers, new boards, things like that, because I think that it's the kind of game that can continue to grow and expand and be a staple in the roguelike genre as just one of those fun games to play. But we'll see. I think the game is completely fine as is and very worthy of being in my top 10 list. At number 8, I have a game that did not, again, get nearly enough media attention, but it is one of the most fascinating games I've ever played in my life. Rogue Voltage. This is a circuits roguelike, where you're programming a circuit to deal damage to enemies. And you have 2 different characters that you're controlling, and they each have special abilities, so you're managing both of their boards and connecting circuits together with wires that all do different things, and you end up building this machine that you barely understand because there's so many moving parts and it's so complex, but it just feels right while you're playing it. It's one of those games where you get lost in your decision makings and you're trying to tweak little tiny things within the game, and you end up completely overwhelmed and just going insane, and it's an amazing feeling in the game. And they continue to add more content to it. There's a bunch of different characters, there's a bunch of different enemies. It's a really, really solid game. And I wish that more people would play it. I think that most people are turned off from it because it looks difficult, right? It looks like it's hard to understand. And there is a little bit of a learning curve to it. But I think that once it clicks, it's really one of the most fascinating games, not only that I've played this year, but that I have ever played. Like, I think it falls into that, like, top 5 weirdest, most fascinating roguelikes out there. So it's well worth a look. Check it out. It's very, very good. At number 7, I have a game that I just did not even remotely expect to ever hit my top 10 list when I saw it, but I just kept on playing it because it just kept on being good. Like, every time I played it, it was better than the last time I played it. This is Keep Keepers, okay? This is a played-up style roguelike co-op automation tower defense game. It collected words, trigger words, genres like it was Pokemon, man. It just was a little bit of everything. And the fact that you could play it co-op and I could grab, Orbital and Madi and play these runs of Keep Keepers, it was just an enjoyable game, right? It was just an enjoyable game. Every time I played, there was something crazy going on to tackle. The automation of tweaking your layouts to optimize your bomb building and your cannonball building. It's just a great game, right? There's some broken synergies in it. There's some balance issues in it. Some of the weapons are impossible to manage, but I think that it's just one of those games that is going to inspire an entire genre of games. I think that there are people that are going to see Keep Keepers and go, I can do a lot with this. And I think that Keep Keepers is going to continue to do a lot with this as they have more updates planned. But I think it's a really fascinating game. Clear inspiration from Played Up and Overcooked, right? But that's fine. You're allowed to have inspiration from games and put your own twists on it, and Keep Keepers put their own twist on it. Check this game out. It's very, very good. It's better co-op. I will warn you, like, don't play it solo, play it co-op. 2-player is my favorite. 3-player is good. I didn't care for it with 4 players as much. I think it's a little too chaotic. But 2-player and 3-player, very, very good. Check this one out. It's a blast. At number 6, I have a little bit of a cheeky one, okay? And this is another one where I think it's more the idea and the future that makes this fall into my top 10 list. We have Farmer Was Replaced, okay? This is a coding game. You heard that correct. This is a Python coding game where you're coding a drone to farm crops, on your land. And there's a bunch of different crops and a bunch of different, basically, puzzle scenarios to teach you Python coding, but also introduce a, like, idle game to you, right? You're letting your code run to collect resources to then upgrade more of your resources and upgrade more of your crops and continue to build and expand your farm. And I think that it is an absolutely insane idea. I think it is so damn good. There are so many people that are now learning coding from this game. I have recommended it to coworkers, friends, family members, people that want to get into coding but don't want to take full-blown classes. I think that this is a way to teach people technology and to get people excited and invested in STEM as a field. And I think that it's just incredible. I really do. I think it's just incredible. It continues to have more updates as well that introduces tweaks to content and improves it. I think it's going to spawn an entire genre. I really do. I think that people yearn for coding games and like those deep automation games. It's been a huge year for automation games, and there is another automation game on our list here. There's not another automation game on this list. I dropped Shapes.io, Shapes 2, off of my list. I forgot about that. But Shapes 2 was another one where, like, really incredible game. I just didn't play enough of it, so I didn't want to put it in my top 10 list. But automation games were huge this year, and I think that people kind of yearn for a more intelligence, puzzly, very intellectual brand of gaming recently. And Farmer's Replace popped off because of that. I think it's a really incredible game. You should check it out. I'll have links to all of them in the description. And number 5, I have another game that is a little weird, okay? It's a little weird. Does it deserve to be this high on my list? Maybe, maybe not. This is Rusty's Retirement, okay? Another game where I feel like that it's the idea of Rusty's that really got me excited about the game. It sits at the bottom of your monitor, right? So it's an idle game that you can kind of play while doing other stuff. So on our channel, we do it for crossword puzzles, right? We do crossword puzzles, and we've been uploading Rusty's crosswords here this entire week, so you can go back and watch some of them if you've missed them. But it's one of those idle games that's just kind of simple, right? It's really just plant crops, harvest crops. Every once in a while, click to buy a new person or something. Manage some beehives, harvest some berry bushes. There's nothing flashy about it. But I think it's that idea of being on the bottom of your screen that is going to, and it already has, it's going to inspire so many other games to release that are going to expand upon that idle game mechanic that allows you to do other things. We're in the overstimulation era, right? Where everybody needs Subway Surfers on one monitor, Rusty's Retirement on the other, while you're writing your essay with ChatGPT and then getting a 0 on your final. It's just a good idea, and I have to applaud good ideas. The gameplay may not be anything exciting. I think it's a beautiful game. I think the graphics are great. I love the theming, and I think the presentation as a whole is phenomenal, but it's just clicking, right? It's really not that exciting of a game, so putting it this high on my list may seem weird to some of you, but I'm applauding the idea of it, and I think that means more to me than anything else. At number 4, we have Pyrene, okay? This is the sequel to Forward Escape the Fold, which is a roguelike that made my top 10 list a couple years ago. Pyrene is a deck builder, but it's more of an exploration story game than it is a deck builder. The deck building mechanics, to be honest with you, I think they're like not anything to write home about, but it's the mechanics of the game and the characters in the game, where each character plays very differently. You get relics that completely change the way that you move and think about the game. And just the amount of content that is dumped into this tiny little game is really impressive, and I love the game a lot. I think I love Forward Escape the Fold like a little better than Pyrene. I really, really rate Forward Escape the Fold. Very, very good game. But Pyrene it's like 1A and 1B. Man, they're both absolutely stellar games. And Pyrene has just a bright future. If they continue to dump updates into it, I think that it's going to continue to flourish in the roguelike genre. It's another game where broken synergies are huge, and people love being able to break the game in balanced ways. And Pyrene is one of those games you can break in balanced ways. So I think it's got a bright future. I think that it's a really, really good game. And I would check it out. We did like 20 episodes of it, man. That's telling on my channel. If I do 20 episodes of anything, that's typically a sign that I really like a game and think that it's super solid. So it's worth a look. Check. And number 3, we've got Animal Well, which everybody knows. I mean, it was nominated for Game of the Year, wasn't it? Maybe it was nominated for something pretty high up there. It's one of those games where I can't talk a lot about it because I think that the more you know about it, the less you have a desire to play it. If this is the first time you're hearing about Animal Well, you haven't seen my series, and you like Metroidvanias, go buy it and play it. Okay? Just go buy it, play it, and then come back, and you can watch the rest of this video. But Animal Well is phenomenal. I'm not the biggest fan of Metroidvanias, but it does that Puzzlevania, Metroidbrania genre as well as any game ever has. It kind of blew me away. I thought it was really, really good. I love platformers, so the fact that it managed to slip in crazy platforming into the game allowed me to enjoy it even more. And I think that a lot of people that kind of poo-pooed it are just wrong. I genuinely think that it's one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played, maybe behind Hollow Knight, and that's it, right? Just a really, really solid game, and I refuse to talk any further about it for risk of spoiling anything. So check it out. My series is a lot of fun as well. It was one of my favorite that I did this year. Highly, highly rate. You should play it. And number 2, look, we all knew it was going to be on the list, okay? UFO 50. Is 50 games, and 50 fully fleshed out games in one $25 purchase. That's 50 cents a game if you want to keep track. I was blown away by UFO 50, and I'll be honest, I didn't even really intend on playing it when I first heard that it was coming out. I was like, it's by Derek Yu. I obviously, Spelunky 2, favorite game of all time. Spelunky, one of my favorite games of all time. Would I enjoy UFO 50? Maybe, right? Maybe. When I played it for the first time, I was hooked, okay? I mean, this is a game that is not 50 minigames. This is 50 fully fleshed out, well-designed games. And there are multiple games inside of it that I would consider for Game of the Year. Like, individual games inside of it that I would consider for Game of the Year. So it's not fair to put it anywhere other than top 2 on my Game of the Year list. I haven't even played all the games. I don't even think I've played half of the games. There's easily 200 hours of content that exists inside of UFO 50. If you've been on the fence about picking it up, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's number 2 on my list. It's 50 games. You should play them. They're all good. I literally do not hate any of the games in UFO 50 that I've played. Every single one I would go back and play more of. And that is extremely telling of great game design. The music is also phenomenal. It's so good. The retro style, it just works. I love it, man. I really do. It's a great game. But finally, number 1. And I would be a damn liar if I didn't have it at number 1. And a lot of people are going to get pissed because the game didn't come out this year. But you know what? I played it this year. And I played a lot of it this year. My game of the year for 2024 is Lingo. It is, okay? It is. It's a puzzle game. It's a minimalistic puzzle game where you're using words to solve puzzles throughout the map. Lingo is one of those games where when I was first recommended to it by a fan on Twitter, like they literally DM'd me and went, hey, I think you'd like this game. I expected to do one episode of it. I expected for people to not really watch it because my channel did not have any success with puzzle games at all until Lingo. I expected to do one episode and then quit, right? And instead I did one episode, got absolutely captured by the game's charm, proceeded to make 40 more episodes of the game that people continued to watch the entire time. And I got to explore what is potentially one of the best puzzle games of all time, and become a part of one of the best gaming communities that I have ever been a part of. The Lingo community is just on another level. They're all amazing people. There's custom maps for Lingo, one of which we've been playing this week. Go check it out. There's just only positive things to say about Lingo, except for like 3 parts of the game. But that's 3 parts of the game in like a 40-part game. So I'm not even going to complain about them. I genuinely, like, it's just a special game. And I recommend it to everybody, every opportunity that I get, because it is simply that good. And I am excited for Lingo 2, which releases next year and will probably pull us right back in for more Lingo nonsense. It is my game of the year. I am proud to call it my game of the year. And I think that everybody could learn a lot from playing Lingo. I really do. It's a game that teaches you patience. It's a game that teaches you a lot about the English language. And it's a game that, again, I think has the opportunity to inspire a lot of other games with some of the design and puzzle mechanics that it introduced in it. Simply great, simply incredible. A great year for gaming, everybody. I do think that this year was a little weaker for indie games and roguelike games than previous years have been. But it was still, I mean, so many incredible gems this year, so many games that we checked out, and there's tons of games that I wish could have made this list and been talked about in this video that I didn't get the opportunity to talk about. Let's have a great next year, right? 2025, so many incredible titles that are going to release. We got Mugenics, we got Slay the Spire 2, we got Lingo 2, we got all kinds of other indie and roguelike gems that I'm sure we're going to find. It's always the ones we don't expect that end up being the best. So here's to a new year. Happy New Year to all of you. Thanks for all the support on the channel, and thanks for all the support in general over the course of Alexamus this year. We raised over $10,000 for charity, so it really was an incredible month. Thank you all so much. Thank you for the great year, and I'll see you in 2025. Have a good one. Bye.